The following is a presentation of the Nerd Complex Podcast Network.
We would like to welcome you to Audio Suplex Live, brought to you by the Nerd Complex Podcast Network.
All right, cool.
Thanks.
So, Corey, how we doing today, man?
How's it going, Travis?
I'm good. We're taking some time off here on a Tuesday afternoon. We wanted to, because our episode's coming out on Thursday, the retrospective look at Money in the Bank 2010 isn't an actual, I'm going to pull the curtain back here, it's not an actual live episode, so we aren't going to really have a chance this week to go over our thoughts from Money in the Bank. So Corey and I wanted to take some time and go over our thoughts from the pay-per-view, and get them out there to you guys so that way you can kind of have something to kind of sink your teeth into. So expect this kind of thing going forward from us because, yeah, we want to get our thoughts out there on these kind of things. So how you feeling?
You kept track of who won the picks, right? You know that information?
Oh, I've got that all. Please. Of course I've got that handy. I don't want to spoil this one for you, but yours truly came away with the W, so...
Well, it's bound to happen eventually.
Hey, man, even a blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while, so...
So I'm told.
So let's get right into it. Let's start off with the pre-show match. We had the returning Hype Bros taking on the Colognes. I don't have a lot of thoughts on this match. I didn't have a lot of thoughts on this match during the preview special that we did on Sunday. I don't know. Do you have anything on this one, really?
The match itself was longer than the women's championship match and the later tag match on the card, which I thought was pretty funny.
Yeah, there
was a lot of time. Yeah, no real storytelling. I mean, it was a basic match. Yeah.
It kind of served as nothing more than just like a welcome back Zach kind of situation. Like I think we were all kind of reading too far into this, saying like, oh, he's going to turn here, or you're going to see like hints of him turning here, or you know, it was really just kind of cut and dry. It was just like a showcase welcoming back Zack Ryder to the roster from injury, and nothing more. There wasn't really no shenanigans, no horseplay. It was just kind of cut and dry, very simple. So
yeah, Zack Ryder is uncomfortably tan.
He looks very tan. He looks very good though. He's in good shape. He looks like he's doing pretty good,
I guess.
All right. So we won't take too much time commiserating on this. Let's get into the main card here. First match of the night, which I had guessed properly. I think we all did except for yourself. The women's Money in the Bank ladder match. Pretty solid match. I mean, and I've heard a few people talk about this as well. There wasn't really any major ladder spots like you saw with the men's match later on, which we'll get into in a little bit. So nothing crazy here really happened in terms of like nobody went through a ladder, nobody really jumped off a ladder. You did have that really good, I don't even know what you would call it, kind of like a twisting somersault from Charlotte from the turnbuckle.
Yeah, I guess that was the closest to the moonsault that they would let her do.
Yeah, no, it was. I mean, but they did use the ladders as weapons. They did get involved a little bit. The match itself was solid.
The ending was terrible.
See, that's the thing that I was gonna kind of get into. The big controversy with this match, and the thing that nobody can seemingly stop talking about, is the ending of the match. So from what I've seen on the internet, there's been kind of two schools of thought with this. On one hand, you know, they had a super good package at the beginning of the match, hyping up how, you know, this is like a women's revolution, and there's, you know, we've come so far with the women's wrestling, and now they have their own Money in the Bank ladder match, and they have this package with like Mae Young and
right. They say their evolution is our revolution. Right.
And it was fantastic. I mean, especially with the Mae Young Classic coming up here in probably a little less than a month here. You know, it's high time that we're getting to this point where, you know, women's wrestling is being treated in WWE at least, you know, as respectfully as their male counterparts. But then you get to the end of the match, and here's where everything kind of goes downhill. So, James Ellsworth gets involved. He throws Becky off the ladder, basically just does the whole ladder tilt spot and what have you. And then Carmella's down on the mat, can't get herself up to go retrieve the briefcase. So Ellsworth climbs the ladder, retrieves the briefcase, and tosses it down to Carmella, which, personal feelings aside, the toss from the top of the ladder of the briefcase to the bottom was absolutely clean. I have seen NFL quarterbacks with worse, accuracy. It was a beautiful toss, but Corey, where do you stand on this one?
I feel like I thought it would have been a great false finish. If Shane would have come out or Dan Bryan would have made his return tonight to say, hey, we need to restart this match. It would have been a great kind of false finish, but obviously they're making that the final finish, at least for the pay-per-view. I'm sure they kind of had to pull the trigger on that to have something to get viewers to tune in on Tuesday for SmackDown. So this is definitely, it's got me interested in what they're going to do on SmackDown. I may not be happy with the result at the pay-per-view, but it is serving its purpose as, okay, we're going to drag this out for another show, and we're going to get people to want to tune in on Tuesday to find out the resolution to this crappy ending to the match.
Yeah, it was, like I said, it was kind of like, I like the idea of the ending. I think if you were to go with a situation where Ellsworth was to get involved, I think it would be better served in a situation where he helps Carmella up to the ladder or hoists her up to skip a couple of rungs or whatever. Not necessarily being, it's a very symbolic thing of him being the one who goes up and retrieves the briefcase, because now you have this whole ballyhoo of, okay, the first women's Money in the Bank ladder match, the briefcase was retrieved by a man. Like, I don't think it's on the same plane, and a lot of people have been comparing it to when, I want to say it was at WrestleMania 25 when they had the Divas Battle Royal when it was won by Santino Marella. I don't think it's quite on the same plane, because ultimately Carmella still won the contract and still won the briefcase. So James Ellsworth didn't win the match, but it's still kind of, I think it takes away from the moment a little bit. I mean, but on the same sense, it's heel heat. It's definitely got people talking, and it's definitely got a lot of people, ready to tune in on Tuesday night to see where the hell this is going to go.
I'm not a fan. I give it a thumbs down. The match overall was pretty good. The ending really ruined it for me, just because Becky Lynch was supposed to win the match. So
yeah,
really,
you keep driving that point home. So
they're ruining my SummerSlam plans, so they need to stop booking this way.
So let's go into the picks real quick. I'm the only person who picked the colognes. So I'm a fool. And then you are actually none of us picked Carmella to win the Money in the Bank ladder match. So
you all picked Charlotte.
Yeah, we all picked Charlotte, and you picked Becky. So we'll see. Anyway,
we'll see who wins. Although we already know it's you.
So
did I do the worst?
I didn't want to spoil it for you, man, but you did.
Yeah, I mean, I picked Randy Orton to win too.
Yeah, I mean, your heart was in the right place. I thought it was a good idea, and you have a really good knack for talking me into these picks that you make anyway. So, usually I'll kind of go along with what you say on these things because you have a really good, compelling argument usually. But
they just never book it the way they should. So it's not.
This is why they need to hire you for creative.
Someday,
one day. So moving right along, we'll move into the tag team title match. We have the champions, the Usos, defending the titles against the New Day. New Day combination in the ring is the typical Big E and Kofi Kingston combo. This match kind of served for me as just kind of like a. If you want to know how I feel about this pay-per-view as a whole, this match is kind of like the match that you can kind of like use as like the image of what this pay-per-view is. It's a really good show with a really screwy ending. Like, there was a lot of things during this show that just kind of had a very unsatisfying end to them. Like, because the match itself, despite a couple of botches in there, and a couple of like missed spots, the match itself was really good. I mean, the Usos and New Day would have to try really hard to have a bad match with one another. But the ending itself, I get you want to set up for something maybe down the line at like Battleground or even drag it out to SummerSlam, but it was a very transparent finish. It didn't shock anybody, it didn't surprise anybody, but it still was a letdown for as amazing of a match as they had.
Yeah, I mean, I think this was the only safe way to have the New Day not win the belts. The Usos are doing a great job as champions. I think they're not ready to necessarily take the belts off of them. So it makes the New Day look super strong. The Usos keep the belts. They can do this for another month. Obviously, they want New Day to be the tag champs on SmackDown. That's the long-term plan. This is just something to kind of continue this story for another month, just because there's not a lot of tag teams at the top of the division that could easily move into a new feud with either of these teams. So I think, again, this is something where they're planning for the future, kind of like what they did with the Money in the Bank match on the women's side. How can we, stretch this out and continue to get views on our content? So I think that's kind of what they did here. This didn't upset me as much as the ending of the ladder match, just because it wasn't a historic thing, and they didn't book it as something that you guys should pay attention to. So not as upset, but obviously a more definitive finish probably would have been more exciting for a fan.
Yeah, and one of the big narratives that I've seen coming out of this is that there's been a lot of praise heaped on the St. Louis crowd for the show, and I agree. The crowd was hot for this show the entire night. Sans maybe the tag team match right before the main event, which we'll get into in a little bit here. But the which is once again another unresolved thing, or a really poor resolution to something that I thought could have been presented a lot better. But the crowd themselves, like, they were into it for the entirety of the match, and they kind of really got like a very unsatisfying show. I know that if I was there personally, I would have been unsatisfied. Sans maybe the men's ladder match, but.
Well, even the ending of that match, I mean, we had a heel win, not a face, so that's meant to get the crowd kind of upset about the victory.
Yeah.
So it's really a night of upsetting the crowd, literally from front to back.
I don't know, man. We had the one lonely face champion on the entire roster, both SmackDown and Raw and NXT, retain her title in the next match here with the Women's Championship. Naomi defending against Lana, who's making her in-ring debut here. Good to see Lana isn't wrestling in the full gown that we've seen her kind of wearing out to the ring. So
it looked like she was all the way up until the match bell rang, because she came out in the gown and got in the ring in the gown, and I really honestly thought that was the way the match was going to go, but she did take it off, which was a relief.
Well, we were watching it together, actually, and we were actually speculating, wow, is she actually going to wrestle in this? And then she comes into the ring, she has the gown on, and they cut away to, I want to say they cut away to like Naomi or something like that, and then they cut back like, oh, she does have actual ring gear. This is nice. Okay, good.
Right.
So, pretty short match. I don't have the exact time in front of me, but it was a very short match.
Longer than you'd expect. What would you guess?
I'm going to guess it was about 7.5 minutes. How long was it?
7.5 minutes.
Was it really 7.5 minutes?
7 minutes and 30 seconds.
Oh, wow. That's insane.
You guessed it on the nose. You're lying to me. You say you don't got it.
I sincerely do not have it in front of me. That is something else.
Bull crap.
Well, once again, this is a match where, like, the match itself, I don't have a lot of feelings of. I will say that Lana definitely opened my eyes a little bit. I think a lot of people didn't have a lot of expectations of her going into this match as a women's competitor. But I think she's definitely been putting in the time at the Performance Center. She's got a little bit of a moveset to her. Some of the spots I thought were a bit sketchy looking, and it looked like she was kind of maybe reaching above her ability. But all in all, I don't think that she turned in like a bad performance.
No, I was pleasantly surprised. She actually looked like she knew what she was doing in the ring. She has a pretty good finisher that looks good when she hits it. I don't know if she should have been thrown in the championship picture right off the bat on her debut, but this is a good way to make her look good. And the only reason she really lost, you could argue, is because of the distraction of Carmella, who teasing in her cashing in her Money in the Bank contract. So she came out, caused a distraction, and then shortly after there, Lana lost the match by submission. So
I don't know if
you could argue that she still looks pretty strong because she did lose because of a distraction.
I don't know if you saw this, but during the show, Daniel Bryan actually tweeted out something to the effect of, "We'll sort this whole Money in the Bank thing out on Tuesday."
Yeah, they showed it on the TV.
Oh, that's right. They did.
Yeah, they showed it.
My theory was, okay, well, she's going to cash in her contract before they can do anything about it on Tuesday. Like, they can't do anything if she cashes it in before Tuesday gets around here.
Right.
So, but that's not the direction they go. So we're going to ride into Tuesday or tonight, really, if you're listening to this, to find out exactly what's going to happen with this. So,
yeah, I think it would have been awesome if they would have done that. Let's say she cashes it in, she loses the match. let's say that's the scenario.
Yeah.
This is how I would book it if you were going to do that. You'd have Carmella lose the match, so she loses the contract. The next Tuesday, Dan Bryan says, we're going to figure this out. We're going to have a rematch. She's still in the match, and she wins the briefcase back, so she gets a second chance to cash in the Money in the Bank. I think that would have been funny.
That would have been a good ending, too. So
it didn't happen.
All right, so after the women's – do you have anything else for the women's title match?
No, that's the least interesting match, I think. Oh, well, maybe not the least interesting match. I forgot there's another one coming.
Well, we only have 3 proper matches left to get through. So the next segment that we're treated to is a Fashion Files segment. You can't have a SmackDown show without having the Fashion Police on there in some capacity. This one is a send-up of the 80s Miami Vice kind of thing. I think they called it Fashion Vice, was it?
Yeah.
Oh my God, super, super funny. They need to just continue this until the wheels fall off. Like, I'm okay with it. And I think this is a gimmick where it has a lot of legs, man, because there's a lot of cop dramas out there and a lot of, like, different send-ups of different cop tropes that you can play off of and make these really funny segments out of it. And you have two guys that are absolutely made for these kind of segments with Tyler Breeze and Fandango especially. Yeah,
absolutely. I think it's working for them. It feels very like old school wrestling. Like this is how they used to do backstage segments when kayfabe was a thing. I feel like that's kind of a throwback to that, and I like it. It's entertaining. The match that they eventually get led to tonight.
Before we get into that, we have to talk about how the Fashion File segment actually set up for that, because what had happened was they had actually. We find out that we're finally going to get the resolution to SU, who destroyed the Fashion Police's office, and they get this ominous VHS tape, and they watch it, and if it's not very abundantly clear to you who their challengers are at that point, then you apparently don't watch a lot of WWE television. So yeah, but what that inevitably leads into is the match that you're talking about, which happens right after the world title match. But you want to talk about that now? Just kind of get it out of the way.
I mean, if you want to, it was a very short match.
All right, so
I thought, it's just, go ahead.
No, it's basically, so they receive a videotape, they watch it, they do that classic interview thing where they black out the person's identity and they mask the person's voice, saying basically something to the effect of, if you want to find out who destroyed your office, meet us in the ring. A little later on in the night, Fashion Police come out, and who should be the assailants who destroyed their office? The Ascension.
Oh, the Ascension case is just reopened.
This felt like such a letdown. I feel like you could do so much more with this. There was so much more potential. You could have had American Alpha come back, and it could have been a swerve there. Sometimes I complain about when they do swerves just for swerve's sake, but this is one of those storylines where a swerve would have been the perfect move here.
Absolutely, and it didn't even have to be necessarily American Alpha. It could have been a new team that is debuting, maybe someone from NXT. Not that there's anybody necessarily ready, but they could have booked this a lot better. Hopefully, this isn't, like you said, the end of the storyline that they're doing. Because this was the big payoff. Who destroyed our office 3 weeks ago on SmackDown? I don't know.
And we also got no explanation from the Ascension as to why. It literally was just come out, have a match, and it was nothing more than just to fill time on a pay-per-view that the morning of had 5 matches.
Right.
So, all right. Well, moving on. After the Fashion Files segment, there was a segment. We were treated to the debut of Maria and Mike Kanellis, making their long-rumored debut on WWE television. Came out to what is going to become my favorite entrance theme of probably quite some time. It's this classic 80s power ballad feel to it. What did you think of the entrance in this segment?
I'm interested to see what their character is going to be fleshed out to. It seems like their gimmick is they're in love, and she's the first lady of wrestling. His new ring name is her last name. He took on her last name. I thought was interesting. I don't know. I don't really know what this is going to play out into. I'm interested to find out. I'm assuming the guy, her husband, is a pretty decent wrestler. I mean, he's been in TNA and Ring of Honor.
Yeah, I think the whole gimmick in and of itself is kind of a play on the whole narrative that surrounds them as workers anyway. A long narrative is that Mike Bennett, or in this case now Mike Kanellis, doesn't really he's never really impressed anybody from a worker's perspective, but he continuously gets work, and a lot of people speculate that it's because of his marriage to Maria Kanellis. Like, Maria Kanellis is a hot commodity in wrestling still. I mean, obviously WWE was quick to snatch her up as soon as their contract with TNA ended, and they came as kind of like a package deal. So on one hand, I think it kind of plays into that whole narrative a little bit and kind of like tongue-in-cheek plays on it and has him taking her last name. But I also think it's a fun way to kind of play the role reversal and have like the woman of the relationship be kind of like the stronger character, and he's going to be playing like the trophy husband kind of role, which I think is going to be absolutely hilarious, and it's going to upset a lot of people in the worst way, and I can't wait for it.
I'm interested to see. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not familiar with Mike Bennett. Obviously, Maria used to be on WWE, so I know about her. But yeah, we'll see. The segment wasn't bad. It was a pretty short segment, if I remember correctly, and it got the audience kind of interested. Who are these new people? And I'm excited to see how this all plays out, I suppose.
And I can't say it enough. I absolutely love that theme song. It's been stuck in my head ever since Sunday.
Luckily, it's not stuck in my head because I can't think of what it is right now.
As soon as it pops up on YouTube or Apple Music, I'll be sure to send it out to everybody. So.
Oh, great.
So moving right along, we're going to move into the WWE Championship match. Jinder Mahal now going in as champion, defending his championship against Randy Orton in his hometown in front of not only his father, but an absolute slew, a bevy, if you will, of returning WWE and wrestling legends.
Yeah, a bunch of old white guys.
Yeah, listen, they laid it on thick with this match. They pulled out all of the proverbial stops. They paraded out these legends. You got Ric Flair out there. You've got Sergeant Slaughter out there. You've got Cowboy Bob Orton. You know, the only thing missing from this match to make it like the feud that WWE is really trying to push home would have been to have like Jimi Hendrix's ghost come out, play the Star Spangled Banner while eating apple pie and swinging a baseball bat around the ring. You know, like that was the only thing actually missing. Like, if they would have said, if we would have had a drinking game where it was take a drink every time they mentioned that this is Randy Orton's hometown or that his dad and other legends are watching on, we would have been done before this match was over.
Alcohol poisoning.
Oh my God. And you guys wouldn't be here to enjoy us talking to you now. Like, so thank God that we didn't. So
next time.
Yeah. So they definitely laid it on thick with the presentation of this match. The match itself, and I've heard a couple other people talk about this, and I'm glad I'm not the only person who has this feeling and this thought. It was almost like a copy and paste from Backlash. Like, they almost took the exact same match, including the finish, copied it and pasted it from Backlash.
Pretty much, yeah.
I mean,
even to the spots on the Singh brothers are very similar.
Yeah. No, the whole match ends when Randy Orton hits the RKO, goes for the pin. As he's pinning Jinder Mahal, the Singh brothers put Jinder Mahal's leg on the bottom rope, thus stopping the pin. Randy Orton, they basically try to get the disqualification so that Jinder Mahal can retain. Instead, the referee, who I believe was Mike Chioda, throws out the match, or doesn't throw out the match, but throws out the Singh brothers. And on their way out, they start picking a fight with the aforementioned legends on the outside, and Randy Orton comes out, and then, just like a repeat of Backlash, murders the Singh brothers, which creates enough distraction for Jinder Mahal to hit the Kalash, picks up the victory. 1, 2, 3. Jinder Mahal is still the champion.
Rightfully so.
Well, yeah, I think it's the right move to move forward. Listen, with the amount of pomp and circumstance that they put into Randy Orton, and this being his hometown and everything like that, which did you know this was it was in his hometown?
Oh, Randy's actually from St. Louis.
Yeah. So they may have mentioned it once or twice on commentary. You know, even with all that pomp, if you didn't know that this was going to be the ending of the match, then you're just not paying attention.
You've never seen WWE TV before.
But I do think it is the right move to continue on with Jinder. I think as time goes on, the more I see him on Talking Smack, and the more I see him, on social media, and the more I see him on SmackDown even, he's really kind of embracing this new role that he has in the company.
Listen to his podcast he's on Talk is Jericho. Listen to it. It's right before he won his championship. So it was like the weekend of his championship match. So he knows he's number one contender during the interview, but he doesn't know he's going to win the belt. I don't think. I think it's right before he won. But it's an interesting look on what happened to him. He got fired and let go, and then got rehired and started dieting and taking care of himself. Really good. Definitely a bigger Jinder Mahal fan after that. And actually, I ordered a Jinder Mahal shirt on Sunday. So
he actually did. I witnessed it live. I was there when it actually happened.
So I will be getting that in the mail sometime, I think, this week.
And to Corey's credit, he ordered the Jinder Mahal shirt before the WWE Championship match. So he was that confident that the modern day Maharaja was retaining his title that he pulled the trigger on it before the match. So let the record state.
I like to think that because I ordered that shirt, Vince saw and was like, "Oh crap, we got some Jinder fans. We better make sure that he wins this one tonight."
You know, I think you might be onto something there. I think you have altered the sands of time.
Well, I just know nobody was buying a Randy Orton shirt on Sunday.
Well, because all the good Randy Orton shirts were made about 10 years ago and can now be found at your local Goodwill or Savers.
Actually, they have a retro store on the Shop Network or on the shop.com now, so you can order like they have the vintage RKO that looks like a Bo shirt. That's on there.
Yeah, well, I won't be getting out my wallet anytime soon for any of that, so.
Not for a Randy shirt, no way.
So before we get into the men's ladder match, there is something I wanted to talk about, and this was kind of like I want to get your feelings on this. How do you feel about them having the men's ladder match as the main event of the show after the world title match?
I mean, it was definitely going to be a more interesting match no matter what, so I'm assuming that's why. I think the only thing they really missed out on was whoever won the Money in the Bank ladder match, they could tease whether or not they were going to cash it in, which they did that with the women's championship match. So you're not missing out on that. I think this was definitely the best match of the night overall as far as spots and quality of the wrestling taking place. I think it was a good move to have it last. Obviously, Jinder Mahal's not your headlining ultimate mega heavyweight champion, so having him a little further down on the card isn't too crazy of an idea.
Yeah, my only major gripe with this before we get into the ladder match was I've always liked that tension of having the ladder match before the championship match. And last year's a prime example of like Dean Ambrose wins the ladder match earlier in the night, and then fast forward to the end of the card, you then have Dean Ambrose cashing in on Seth Rollins and winning the title. Like, granted, we did have that in a much smaller sense with the women's Money in the Bank winner with Carmella. But I don't know. Like I feel like it kind of took away from the suspense of the show, because as soon as you saw the title match was coming on next, it telegraphed that nobody's cashing in tonight. Like everybody,
no unexpected cash-ins happening tonight.
Right. So let's get
there was a chance he was going to cash it in on Talking Smack. They were in the same room together.
I was always curious, can they actually cash in away from the ring? Because every cash-in is always, if I'm not mistaken, been like, it has to. The match itself is an actual match because you cash in, you get your match. So I'm assuming it has to be inside an actual ring.
Yeah, I don't think it's like the hardcore title match or hardcore belt was 24/7 defense rules.
Right.
But yeah.
Right. All right. So let's get into it. Let's get into the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. So this one was. I don't think you're going to find anybody who's going to disagree. The match of the night, hands down. I want to say all 6 of the guys, but all 5 of the guys, and we'll get into this in a second, absolutely worked their tails off. I don't think anybody came out of this match looking any worse, if not better, than they already did. So,
well, even that 6th guy worked his tail off. He still put on a decent performance.
Yeah. So basically the match started out with all the entrances and everything like that. And as Shinsuke Nakamura is making his entrance, he's attacked from behind from Baron Corbin. Baron Corbin absolutely murders Shinsuke Nakamura before the start of the match. And then the refs have their little discussion, and I guess it's decided that they're just going to continue on without Shinsuke. And then the match.
Yeah, wasn't it Baron was like, ring the bell, start the match, come on. He kept yelling at the ref, and finally they did. They started the match without Shinsuke.
Yeah, so basically the match starts out as a fatal 5-way elimination ladder Money in the Bank match. and basically, like, it's hard to kind of go over this match spot by spot. There were so many. I do kind of have to give a shout out to Kevin Owens, because I think he definitely took some of the more brutal spots in the match, and definitely.
Isn't there a rumor he's injured?
There was a rumor, but he was actually, from what I understand, working some of our SmackDown's house show that they had last night. I believe it was in Indianapolis. So apparently he's okay, or he's at least.
He's had a broken thumb too the last couple weeks, or the last week or two as well. So,
hey, listen, man, he's the face of America. You know,
he'll work through pain.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. If he's injured, it doesn't matter. He's the face of America. He picks up his flag, he picks up his apple pie, he picks up Randy Orton, and he just keeps going forward. You know.
Exactly.
So, couple spots of note. I think basically anything involving Kevin Owens was fantastic. There was I want to say it was like a Nelson. It almost looked like a dragon suplex onto the on the apron. Was it a dragon suplex or was it a exploder? I can't remember.
Exploder, yeah.
Oh, okay.
It was an exploder. Because that's what Sami Zayn does.
Yeah. So, exploder suplex onto the apron looked absolutely brutal. There was a spot in the match where AJ Styles delivered a Death Valley driver off of, I want to say it was the turnbuckle on Kevin Owens onto the ladder, which was kind of like set up between like the ring post and the announce table.
It was pretty brutal.
Oh, and then like one of the earlier spots in the match where Kevin Owens gets tossed into the open ladder that's laying down on its side.
Yes.
Yeah, so he took like the brunt of it, but like I said, all 5 of these guys were pretty much, you know, giving it their all for the entirety of the match.
Bong, bong, bong,
And
bong, 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 bong. And then Shinsuke came out.
And what did Shinsuke do?
He won the match.
He did not win the match, but he did come out on absolute fire. He, you know, I think you had kind of like pointed out to me when we were watching is that Shinsuke Nakamura had never been in a ladder match before this. Has Baron Corbin ever or either?
I don't think so.
So you have a lot of guys here who are completely inexperienced at ladder matches. You know, whether or not they took Shinsuke out early to kind of protect him a little bit and to kind of keep him away from the ladder match is something you can speculate on. Either way, when he did finally get involved in the match, he came in like an absolute house on fire. He took out pretty much everybody in the ring, got his comeuppance on Baron Corbin, basically just lit it up, and then we are treated to a stare down between AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura.
Epic.
The crowd they were hot for this.
They were on fire.
Oh my goodness, they were hot for that showdown. Super cool the way they presented it too. Like there was, so I believe it was Shinsuke setting up the ladder, and then he kind of like looks up and he locks eyes with AJ, who's on like the other side of the ladder, and then they're the only two in the ring. And then there's this kind of like surreal moment where they just kind of like, you know, the crowd starts getting into it. You can audibly hear them kind of like coming up with it. And then they just set the ladder aside and then just start going at it. This is going to be, you know, if WWE is smart, and I know sometimes we get on them for not doing what we think is a smart idea, but if this crowd is any indication, this match is going to be a money match one day.
Now, do you think this is something that's going to happen soon, or we're going to see this at WrestleMania? What are your thoughts on that? Is it SummerSlam?
In my heart of hearts, I would like to see it build out until WrestleMania. I think these guys have a lot of stuff that they can do between now and then to kind of tide them over. Like, but then again, knowing WWE, they don't really think long term as much as we would like them to. So I could see this happening as recently or as quickly as SummerSlam.
What if it happens at one of like the SmackDown B pay-per-views, like the new one, the Hokey Pokey?
The Hokey Pokey. When is that one?
That's their new pay-per-view. They're going back and doing these old songs and turning them into pay-per-views. I think SmackDown did Hokey Pokey.
Oh, okay,
I think that's the one in September.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, we'll have to check that one out. That might be a good pay-per-view for this. So I was thinking SummerSlam, but there is a precedent for them having these like really good matches on pay-per-views that you wouldn't expect. I'll use the Shield Triple Threat from Battleground. I want to say it was last year or the year before. As a prime example of a time that they took a match that should be like a WrestleMania or a SummerSlam, you know, main event and give it to you on a B show.
Well, I think some of that had to do with Roman Reigns was about to be suspended, so they couldn't really drag it out any longer, and they had to pull the trigger when they had the chance. Also with the brand split coming.
Right. So, but hands down, this was the match of the night. The Styles Nakamura showdown hopefully opened some eyes in the back and kind of told them like, hey, there was actual money to be had in this feud. So,
well, we also made the comment. Was it you that mentioned if Nakamura had been Roman Reigns and he had sat in the back the whole time and then came out, he would have been showered in booze. It would have been a complete opposite story.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, and that's like, listen, I'm not like a Roman Reigns apologist by any stretch of the imagination, but and obviously we're talking about a SmackDown pay-per-view here, but real quick, Roman Reigns is a guy who shows up to work every Monday and is given, a role and a part to play in a show, and he doesn't have as much say in this as I'm sure a lot of people would like to think and would like to throw on him. And for his credit, he's doing a good job with it. His promo last night when he came out to
very heelish,
but very very good. Like
very straightforward. Well, he was definitely like, this is my yard. He was definitely pulling some heat. But yeah, I like what Roman's doing.
There's almost a dynamic where they are, and Roman Braun is a really good feud. We'll kind of end it up with this. Roman Braun is a really good example of like this thing that they're trying to do where like the younger kids are cheering for Roman while the older fans are booing him. And it's the opposite for Braun, whereas like the older fans are cheering for Braun and the younger fans are booing him.
Right.
It's really weird. It's an entirely almost new dynamic that I don't think, to my knowledge, I think the NWO might be like the first thing when they first came out. Like it was one of those where like your more hardcore fans were super into it, and maybe some of the younger fans who kind of still believed in kayfabe were booing it.
Right.
It's been a long time since we've seen a dynamic like this, so
it's really weird. It's really weird.
But what I was saying is that it's not to detract anything from Shinsuke Nakamura or from Roman Reigns or anybody who books these matches to have them sit out for a period of time. It's just, it's always interesting to me to where one guy, like a Roman Reigns who does work hard and does, do his best to put on the best show that he can, will get absolutely lambasted for something like this. But Shinsuke Nakamura does it, and because he's got the credibility or whatever, people just still continue to heap praise on him, which not saying that he doesn't deserve it, but,
Right.
So anyway, match ends up with, I believe, who was it was it Nakamura and Styles who were both going after the briefcase at the same time?
Yeah, they were both at the top, and then in comes Baron Corbin, knocks him down, and probably the quickest I've seen anyone climb a ladder all night, climbs to the top of the ladder and pulls the briefcase off.
Maybe that's the secret. Maybe the secret, these guys are training cardio and these guys are training like weight training and stuff like that. Maybe Baron Corbin put some extra time in at the Home Depot and
just climbing ladders.
Yeah, just climbing ladders, just learning how to climb a ladder, because seemingly, nobody, Dolph Ziggler, looking at you, knows how to climb a ladder in WWE.
It's almost, when you really take a step back and look at it and really pay attention during the matches of how slow people climb ladders, it's like do they think we're that stupid that's how slow someone would climb a ladder for an opportunity at a world championship match?
I guess, man. I don't know. I mean, I guess it's, you, as a wrestling fan, you have to suspend your disbelief in a lot of things.
They should just make the ladder like a 30-foot ladder, and because that'll take a long time to climb.
Or maybe put like booby traps on all the rungs, like mouse traps or something like that.
Yeah, or have someone, controlling the height of the briefcase, and they lift it up and lower it.
They tried that once.
Yeah, but
it didn't actually turn out that well.
And we never found out who did it.
No, we never did. So
what
yeah.
do you think overall?
So overall, it was
thumbs down.
There's a lot of people out there who are calling this the worst pay-per-view in recent history. I don't think that's the case. I mean, for the most part, I was fairly entertained throughout the entirety of the show. I don't think it was as good as Extreme Rules. I don't think it was as good as Payback. I thought it was okay. It was I mean, some of the endings were really curious, but in their defense, I now am excited to tune into SmackDown tonight to kind of see where these storylines are going to go.
I am in full agreement. Is that a word?
Yeah.
Full agreement with what you said. I'm excited to see what SmackDown is going to hold. And overall, I mean, the pay-per-view wasn't terrible. The endings were kind of iffy here and there, but I was just like you, entertained pretty much from front to start, with two very minor exceptions. So no big deal.
Yeah. And like I said, we could probably spend an entire show talking about the ending of the women's Money in the Bank match. I get it, but at the same sense, I don't. And I genuinely think that's the consensus of a lot of people right now. So if you're conflicted about it, don't worry about it, folks. Everybody on the planet is apparently conflicted about the ending of that one.
So hopefully that gets resolved this evening.
Right. So before I let you go, Corey, we want to plug a couple things that we got coming up both this week and next week, and even in the coming weeks for Audio Suplex Live. This week, because we're recording this now, Thursday, you'll be able to check out a retrospective look, I should say, at Money in the Bank 2010. Corey and I took a pretty funny look back at it, including a segment where I absolutely lose my mind over the SmackDown Men's Money in the Bank match. Corey has nothing to add to that, so that's fun.
Yeah, it was exciting. I wish we would have picked a different year, but this was the first Money in the Bank pay-per-view, so historically it was relevant.
Yeah, it was all in all a pretty good watch. But if you want to find out exactly how we felt about Money in the Bank 2010, make sure you guys tune in Thursday night and check that out.
Make sure you watch it before you listen to the show if you have a chance. Make it a little bit more entertaining.
Yeah, or watch it while we're talking about it.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, if you can sync it up right, kind of like Dark Side of the Moon and Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
Next week in the studio, we'll be back live on Thursday night. We'll have Robert Lopez from Northwest Ohio Wrestling, good buddy of ours, going to come in and talk about NOW, talk about their success in the last year or so, and some of their upcoming events. We have Uprising 11 from them coming, I want to say July 8th, I believe that is.
That sounds right.
Yep, sounds right. And then the week after that, we'll have the, I'm trying to remember, is the week after that the Thus Fars?
Yes.
Oh, fantastic. I am super excited about that. So the week after, hold on, I got to double check that. Yes. Okay. So that would be the 6th. So episode 23 on the 26th will be the first annual Audio Suplex Live Thus Far Awards. We're going to take an entire episode to award the best of the year in WWE thus far.
I can't wait.
That's going to be a good episode, man. I'm really excited about that one. So yeah, so we'll let you guys get on with the rest of your day. Make sure you guys are checking us out on YouTube, subscribe, leave comments down below with your thoughts on Money in the Bank 2017. Get at us on Twitter at Audio Suplex Live and Facebook at Audio Suplex Live. And I'm going to get ready to go watch SmackDown later on tonight.
I have to host trivia, but yes, I'll watch SmackDown when I get home.
All right, well, thank you guys for listening, and we will see you guys soon. Goodbye.
Peace out.
Hey guys, we would like to thank the band Wax for our intro and outro music. You can check them out at waxoh.bandcamp.com. You have been listening to the Nerd Complex Podcast Network.
You've been listening to the Nerd Complex Podcast Network.